Take two.
Welcome to the Frightfully Good Vodcast and to Mercury in retrograde. Shit thing that it is. This evening, your hosts are Anne Rzechowicz from Oz Paratech and Renata Daniel from Newcastle Ghost Tours. And tonight we are exploring the letter G as we go ahead with the ABC of paranormal strangeness.
G-spot.
And tonight we are looking at golems and Ganzfeld. So crack open a beer and join us shortly.
Too far. Hey guys, how you all going? As you probably noticed, we had a bit of a false start there. Welcome to Mercury in retrograde. It kicks off today, doesn't it?
Oh, didn't it just?
We're all communication, forms of communication and electronics go to shit.
Yeah, give us a big heart if you've had a shit day today for the first day of Mercury retrograde.
Mine actually hasn't been too bad until you got here.
Hi, Jenny.
Oh, dear.
Hi, Jody. Yeah, hi, Peter. It's been a shit of a day. Every single thing has just gone. I've had a boxing match with technology today, and I've lost. I just want to say.
And she's had people demanding things from her with technology. She goes, but I can't. I can't.
Can't do it.
You find that there is a lot of assumptions made with technology that people just assume you can do certain things and know how to do certain things, and us old girls.
I think if you're a younger age and you sort of get brought up with technology and you know the language of it,
I don't think we're doing too bad, you know. I've learnt a lot in the last really 12 months. I have learnt more than I have.
I've crashed and burned. The more information I know, the less I can get around all of this stuff.
And there's, what does Denise call it? A procrastinator. I am a procrastinator. Do you know what that means? I buy courses and I don't do them. I procrastinate. I keep thinking, I'm going to learn how to do that. I'm going to buy the You Dummy course on how to do... What was it, the one that we're doing now? About making websites?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
WordPress.
Oh, God.
I bought the course and I know nothing. I haven't done the course, but I know nothing.
Yeah, but then you've got to sort of work out things like plugins and freaking drop down shit and whatever else goes on there. It's black magic. People talk about magic and witchcraft. That bloody stuff is, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, 100 years ago.
None of this burning incense crap. It's just go to technology.
100 years ago, some of the stuff we're doing now, they would have thought was black magic.
Most definitely. But we're not talking about that tonight, Anne.
No, that's a B. We've got the G-spot tonight.
We are. So let me just put my little finger on our podcast button.
Oh.
And welcome everyone to the first part of tonight's podcast/vodcast. And we are going ahead down the deep tunnel of ABC, Paranormal Strangeness, and we are up to the letter G. And no, Anne, we are not doing G-spot.
Well,
no.
It's the G-spot.
No,
G.
No,
like last week was F-spot. Now it's the G-spot.
No, we are doing golems, and we are doing...
Oh, is that a golem? Oh, it's a golem.
Golems, and... What was the other one? Ganzfeld.
Ganzfeld.
Hello, Sylvia. How are you? And yes, so we are up to the letter G when it comes to paranormal strangeness and all things ooky and spooky. And yes, Mercury retrograde.
Yes,
if it was
Karen.
a G, it would be part of tonight. We might have to do it when M comes along.
Grumpy and deflated. There you go.
Yes.
There,
yes.
That's exactly what's been going down.
Yep, it sure has. And we're in this till April. I know. Hang on to your hats, guys. These podcasts could be sliding down a deep dark hole.
Oh, Brooke seemed to think that it was going to be done by March because her wedding was on the 21st of March, and she's a little bit worried that Mercury retrograde would still be kicking on and screw up the wedding.
Well, we'll just pretend it's not. It's not. So, yeah. So,
you're going first.
Oh, am I? Okay,
yeah.
All right. Okay, well, let me tackle the subject of golems.
Yes.
Now, I personally didn't think I was going to be interested in this whatsoever. And when I started to look up information and do my research, yes, I have notes, and yes, I'm going to read. So just bear that in mind.
I'll add in entertainment while she's reading, which is not much good for the people on the podcast, but I'll do my best.
So I kind of started doing this and I thought, not really doing anything for me. But then, of course, you have to be careful with what you think, because this afternoon when I reached for my notes, they were no longer there. They had disappeared into the abyss of everything that is technological.
Mercury retrograde.
So I had to look everything up all over again.
It's all right, you doubly know it now.
But actually, I found better notes. So there you go. It was all meant to be.
What? Oh, blessed bird.
I know, right?
Never nasty.
So, golems turned out to be quite an interesting little subject, because they do actually connect with a few of the things that are going on now, and they kind of do have a little bit of a segue into sort of the ghostly side of things. And we can think about certain entities being able to be referred to as golems. Once we look through these notes and we understand a little bit better about the mythology of golems and what golems are supposed to be. And if I say golems one more time...
Golem.
But anyway.
Yes, Maxine, we did.
Thank you so much. Maxine sent us a link to that fabulous phone app that you showed me too, because I've completely forgotten what it was called. But if we go back in history, we look at golems as being part of Jewish mythology. Now, I don't know anything about Jewish mythology, so, you know, if I get names and things slightly incorrect, I do apologise straight away.
It'll all be done with a Polish accent,
I do apologise straight away. And I'm not going to go too long down that road. But anyway, so the first account, most interestingly, of a golem being created is that of God creating Adam.
Oh, well, there you go, right off the bat. The very first human being.
There you go. And it is said that during the second hour, Adam became a golem. During the third hour, his limbs were stretched out. In the fourth hour, the soul was cast into him. And that was verified by the Sanhedrin. And the Sanhedrin, which I didn't really know who or what it was, so I looked it up, and it is the Jewish Council of Elders from the Gospels. So there you are. So all the way back to the creation of the first man, we can find this reference to what they call
So what
golems.
BC was that, Renata?
I don't know. Don't ask me. So the Jews were not the only ones to believe that men could be created out of clay. So, of course, if we go to our Christian Bible, Adam was created from... No, he was created from... It was Eve who was created from
the
rib. Adam was created from clay.
That's right.
Yes, from the essence and the earth itself. So that's how God made man. So there are other countries and oranges.
Maxine says she's very happy to have met you the other day, by the way.
Oranges of beef. Oh, God. Yes, where they believe that you could create a golem out of
Hi,
clay.
Philippa.
So we go to
New
the
Zealand.
Creek legend. Creek legend. Or
Is it?
Greek legend.
Some creaky bones or something.
Prometheus created man out of the mud of the earth as an experiment. And if we go to China, some of you may know about the terracotta soldiers. So they were also created out of clay to be golems to be around the mound of one of the rulers of China in 221 BC.
All those clay soldiers.
Exactly
Now,
right.
can I just interrupt just for a second? The beautiful people that are coming on for a free tarot reading, that's on Thursday nights. Tonight is our education night, so to speak, with a bit of fun, a bit of laughter, and a bit of knowledge to boot. So make sure if you want your reading, come back on Thursday night, and make sure you've liked the page and subscribed so you know when we go live.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So the soldiers were created from a fine clay on top of coils of terracotta. Then the heads and hands were attached separately, representing living soldiers. And that's the whole idea of golems. It's kind of this thing of where man thinks he is God and can create a living entity out of non-living material. So you can see how this can affect religious belief and how this can be looked at as very much black magic. Yeah. So how do they work? So this information here comes from Rabbi
Let me get my notepad and pen so I can make myself a golem tonight.
Eliezer Rzechowicz on the Book of Formation. That's as good as I can get it.
That looks good to
and
me.
he says, as you may remember, there are many ways to create a golem. We know that it is created of mud and clay. Heats to a glowing red, is infused with moisture, then is given the breath of life. It is fairly easy to see how this could create a man. So if we go back to scriptures, it is believed that we ourselves are golems until God actually places the breath of life within our bodies. So very much this religious intonation going all the way back to the very beginning of when golems were created. So mud and clay are both inanimate objects,
But there's living organisms normally in them.
Yep. And the golem then heats this to a glowing red. Now the heat doesn't come from outside, it actually comes from the inside. So the golem sort of cooks the whole part of himself and ignites.
That's interesting because when you wrap up clay and things like that, doesn't it start to heat up, get warm?
I don't know.
Maybe someone can clarify that. I've got a vague memory of wrapping up clay and then it gets warm. Did art at school for 4 years. That's about as much as I learned. Hi Carrie, how are you?
So the breath of life is the final ingredient that makes a golem.
Got a jar of that on my shelf.
Or magic words, and that's why this whole process
Abracadabra.
then goes back to this thought of it being associated with magicians, black magic, and sorcerers, and how golems can be used as an entity that does not have its own brain to think, but works on the assumptions of what has been placed into it to do. Okay, so the information that has been placed into it, that's the only way that the golem will work. It doesn't have a brain of its own.
So is it a little bit of like a thought form?
No. It's trying to create an intelligent being, but without a brain.
I've seen lots of them in movies.
Let's have a think. Let's have a think of what you have seen on TV that could be a golem. So what have you seen on TV that could be a golem? And there is one very, very famous book that was transposed into a movie.
Lots and lots of movies, actually.
That really shows what a golem is. Just to let you know, that that book was written by Mary Shelley, and it was
The husband, says Jenny.
and it's Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So if you think of Frankenstein, he was created from several different parts, which were then animated through the use of electricity. And Frankenstein could only do what he was instructed to do. Now, the interesting thing is that if the monster turns, it is not the monster that is punished, it is the person who has created the monster who is then punished. So that's quite interesting. It says here, the creation of a golem can be dangerous for the creator. Therefore, the second theme, which is stressed, is the purity of purpose with which the task must be approached.
Oh, Jenny, I think you're thinking of Golem. Golem from Lord of the Rings. This is a golem, an L-E-M.
A golem cannot be created for the purpose of evil. Having no human soul, any sin the golem commits is the sin of the creator, not the creation.
Well, fair enough. They didn't give us specific instructions.
So Victor Frankenstein was creating life for the wrong reasons. He took to the physical and the metaphysical, not the spiritual, and he desires to be first to know the mysteries of creation in order to share them with the world. So Victor Frankenstein, who created the monster, Frankenstein, thought himself as God. He believed that he could reanimate a dead person and breathe life back into it, which is, a really big no-no. So his
and
downfall.
How well did that work out for him?
His downfall was predicted because, according to Kabbalistic teachings, he could not understand God's mysteries, and that he is not ready to seek them anyway. Harm befalls the Creator, not the creation.
Now, Cherry's got a good question there. Is it like a voodoo doll?
No, because the voodoo doll...
No breath of life.
It has no breath of life, and this is the difference. It's giving this object the breath of life so that it can act out in this physical world what it needs to do. And there is a connection with our world and our time to this. Very, very shortly. Let me just get to it. Let me just get to it.
I'm not going to drop the gun.
So we go back to Victor Frankenstein, and he believed that he could gain control over something that men are not supposed to control. And this is the idea.
Their libido.
It isn't a new idea, however. Sorcerers would dream of raising the dead and controlling them.
Necromancers, Yep,
sending them out to attack enemies. Priests would pray to their gods to heal the sick and dying and raise the recently departed back to life. Real life, not undeath. However, the motives for them caused their downfall. Sorcerers would raise the dead and use powers to make these mindless zombies do their bidding.
Zombies, yes, okay, yep.
But the dead care not about the living, and the Creator and not the creation will suffer the sin for trying to replace God. So in the lesson here, in all of this lesson, it is, do not try and be God and do something that you are not meant to be doing. Now, let's come all the way through to the now, because this is where things get a little bit creepy and irky-perky.
Just going back as a ghost hunter, and we're talking about the golem and how we should not try to replace God by raising the dead. Aren't we, as ghost hunters, in a way, not raising their physical form, but certainly raising their spiritual form, their essence, to communicate with us? So are we breaking the rules? I suppose it depends if you're a Christian or not.
Could be. Again, it depends on the reasoning for it, remember?
That's right.
In these notes it says you have to be of pure thought. And it is all about the golem not then going ahead to do your bidding. So we are not talking to the dead and then saying to them, go out there and slay whoever it is or create an accident or do whatever else you want them to. So we don't go forward in that part. There is no ritual associated with it. There are no magic words associated with it and all of the other stuff that is connected with actually creating a golem per se. So all we are doing is reaching in and trying to connect with the essence of whatever it is that they
And Mick just said, aren't we just communicating with them? I don't know. Sometimes in ghost hunts I'm saying, can you touch those people? Can you pull their hair? Can you do this? Just so that we can see if they are intelligently interacting with us.
Fine line.
It is a fine line.
It is a fine line.
I like that, Karen. Depends on the Christian.
But
oh, here we go.
Here we go into the future, and here we go into the now, and what is happening nowadays. And this is what caught me very unaware when I was looking at this whole thing. We have created a society that cannot cope with emotion and does not want to have anything to do with emotion, and therefore we have disassociated ourselves with anyone who carries emotion. We look at investing in people in our workplaces that are emotionless and just do a job. We look for relationships that don't require us to emotionally connect with others. We just look for a good weekend every so often, and that's all we want, because emotion means that we tap into parts of ourselves that could be hurtful. So we have over the years distanced ourselves.
And how often do we go, oh, that person's just a drama queen, just get rid of them, and without actually reaching out and saying, you okay? Do you need help?
Now we've gone a little bit one step further. We are so emotionless and so emotion starved that we cannot find partners, we cannot find people to have relationships with. So we are building robots, and we are building people who are not alive. In Japan, there is a flourishing trade of plastic people, love bots that you can purchase and that may be able to say a few words. That's another thing, golems don't speak, and that's what people are falling in love with and marrying. And this is to combat loneliness, and this is to combat the lack of emotional connection. So what the freaking hell are we doing? But this goes on to this last bit here about the whole golem thing, which is about robotics, yeah, and this era of robots that are coming into our life. So if we look at the 3 laws of robotics as prescribed by Isaac Asimov.
Oh, Roman, you'll be so loving this.
A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
All right.
So we have laws of survival for robots. So heaven help, they get to a point where they actually develop consciousness and decide that they can think for themselves. Yeah. So interesting. Just this last little bit here. Just excuse me for a moment. So you may ask how the law of robotics applies to golems, but if you think about it, are not robots golems? And yes, they are.
Instead of the golems are originally shaped from clay, formed in the shape of man, but they've just replaced the substance.
Yep.
And the animation is electricity.
So they are created by men, programmed by men, and have no free will. Golem.
Wow.
And if these laws are examined as if they apply to golems, we know that golems cannot be created or used for evil purpose without harm coming to the creator. A golem cannot do anything except what it is taught to do and what it is instructed to do. And golems have little need to protect themselves, for they were nearly invulnerable to everything but specific methods of reversing and undoing the life-giving process. So there were wood golems as well, and they would fear fire, of course. Flesh golems would usually fear dying again. So this is a zombie thing. And machines, at least the semi-intelligent ones, will always attempt to prevent anyone from deactivating or deconstructing them. So like all laws, these laws can and are broken by both creators and golems endowed with intellect alike.
I tell you what, Blade Runner.
Yes, that's a little bit of history waiting to be created in our world. Because isn't it true, everything you see in the movies obviously comes back in real life. You just have to watch The Simpsons for, 5 or 6 years and you work out what's going to happen. Yeah.
I like Karen here has put, it depends on the Christian. I've had the disapproval, but different beliefs even in Christianity. Catholics are a bit more understanding. Our argument is that ghosts are mentioned in the Bible, etc. Jesus is engaged with the dead, and
medium. He was a medium.
Yeah, and I've actually heard that argument before with the spiritualist group, saying that he was one of the first spiritualists to communicate with the dead. and they're claiming him.
Yes, so this is quite interesting, and when we look at it from the perspective of paranormal investigators or ghost hunters, golems can come in different forms. Guess what another golem is? And this goes back to your Disney movies.
Jenny just suggested Siri.
Yeah. Yes. Pinocchio.
Oh, yes!
Pinocchio was a golem. Isn't that blowing your mind? So, interestingly, if we look far and wide, we can see this process of creating golems everywhere.
And what about the one in Frozen? It's the snowball.
Yeah.
And the big snowball monster.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. So even though this goes all the way back in Jewish mythology and Jewish history, it is everywhere, and we are likely to see much more of this in our world as time progresses. So watch out for those golems, because
Don't step in them.
they are everywhere. And it can be something that arises in ghost hunting, really very much depending on whether someone can create something from an inanimate object, which then kind of goes a little bit wild and they have no control over. That's a problem when the golem decides to
Annabelle.
Yes, have its own say, have its own life, and has an intellect then to work with, because you cannot put that genie back in the bottle.
So this then crosses over into haunted objects.
Yes. In a way, remember, what we need to remember is the specifics of a golem is that it is created for a particular purpose, for the purpose of its creator. It has a task to perform, and then it has the breath of life breathed into it so that it becomes animated. They're the big things about it.
And it's very based in Jewish folklore.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember there's movies with golems in it, and it's sort of in the last 20 years, and I remember they had to call a Jewish rabbi in to get rid of it, and they fall to pieces when they've completed their task.
Yes.
They return to clay.
Yep, they return to clay and they fall apart. Exactly, very much so. So we're just going to finish off on this first part
Don't go away.
of the podcast, and we will be back shortly with the second part.
Well, thank you to those 16 people who are still watching. Oh boy. Okay. This is where we take our commercial break. So what have we got on? Oh, actually, I've got a piece of paper over here somewhere. I've got to quickly get it, Renata. Oh my God. What have I done with it? Talk to them, Renata.
We're going to thank all of our beautiful Patreons now and
I've made a list.
Name them. They're here.
Oh, they're here. I couldn't find my list.
And name them as thank you for supporting us and allowing us to do this wonderful stuff.
So this is the Patreon people who are supporting us and doing what we're doing, and we thank you so much. You can support us as well by simply sharing the page, liking the page. Make sure you click on the follow so that you can get notified when we go live. It's now 14 weeks today till we leave for America, and we've got some big plans that's happening in the process. We've announced this week our Tasmania trip. So we are going to be in Tasmania mid-April, and we are working with The Tench and Paranormal Convictions. So please, if you are in Tasmania or know people in Tasmania, please share that event. We have sold some tickets on that one, so that's good. We've also got our Perth, Western Australia event that we're flying over for, staying at Fairbridge Village. Which was, orphanage and religious things and all sorts of stuff, very haunted. And what else are we doing?
Oh, what aren't we doing? We have Maitland Jail coming up. That's our next one, Maitland Jail. And
4 hours.
The paranormal experience there at the end of this month. Then we also have Grossman House and Bruff House coming up, and that's so 2 houses in one night. So that's a really, really wonderful investigation to come on. We always get something there, and especially in the schoolroom, that one is so much fun to do, going back into the schoolroom. What else do we have?
You've got your private readings, if anyone wants private readings. You're at Ishkar on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, except for this week because we are in Sydney. That's what we're doing this weekend. We're going to come over to Prince Henry Hospital on the Saturday if you're in Sydney, and say hello to us. Renata's going to be doing readings there, and I'm manning the stall and controlling the long lines of people that are going to line up for readings with her. And we're going to stay in Sydney Friday night, so we might do a bit of a live cross while we're there, and we're going to catch up with the
we are doing a private investigation along the way, and we are seeing.
Is it all confirmed?
Oh, you were doing that.
I thought you were doing that. Okay.
And we are also seeing our wonderful helper Brooke, another Brooke.
Oh, Brooke,
our saint and angel, who has come along to say, "I'm going to help you, ladies.
I'm going to nurture you, ladies.
Because you girls are just shocking. You can't do anything."
We love you, Brooke. We're going to have dinner with Brooke on Friday night. I think we'll shout you, Brooke. And look, we just want to give a shout out to our grand poobahs, who are our top tier supporters. Anne, Connor, Belinda, now is it Dana or Dana Reese, Danielle Stevenson, Emma Bunn, Joanne Masters, Jodie Bailey, Jodie Henderson, Cara Windsor, Nikki Hamilton, Peter Sperring, Samantha Shepherd, and Sue Wilkinson. Thank you guys so much for looking after us. I hope you're enjoying the extra reading time that you are getting and the shenanigans that go on that page. I'd also like to give a shout out to our $5 sponsors who are our Parastalker sponsors, which is Grant Searle and Tim Palmer, and also to our $2 sponsors, who's Shireen. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it so much. Now, is this my turn?
Yeah, just hold
on. Hang on. I need to organise my little stand here. Just don't get seasick, guys. Don't get seasick. Hang on, can I get them back down there? Oh, it's all about.
That's right. It's all about you, isn't it?
It's all about me.
Hello. Okay, so now that you have organised your stand so that you are the only one that can be seen, I'll just do this.
Okay.
And we are back for the second half of tonight's podcast, which we are now going to Miss Anne.
Mrs. I've got my husband back now.
And we are going to be talking about the Ganzfeld experiment. So we're ABCing of Paranormal Strangeness, and we are in the letter G for G-spot, and we are talking about Ganzfeld. Take it away, Miss Anne.
All right. So, has anyone here actually done the Ganzfeld experiment? Do you know what the Ganzfeld experiment is? I was actually surprised when I found out how it originated. It was by a lovely man called Wolfgang Metzger, Metzger, and he was actually born in 1899 and died in 1979. So,
is that how old it is?
We're talking about probably the 1940s, 1950s, probably.
We all think we've discovered everything.
Yeah, we think it's a new thing, but it's actually not. And it was actually developed as part of a psychology experiment. It wasn't actually much to do with paranormal as such, but a sensory deprivation tool. So there were some other people that got hold of it in the 70s and wanted to give it a crack. And this is, now I've got to get the right name, Charles Honorton, and he started to use it to investigate ESP, which is extrasensory paranormal. At least when I was
perception.
Perception. Yeah, it's this time of the cycle of the Mars
just keep going.
and Uranus.
Keep going.
I just wanted to say. I'd just like to say that whilst Renata was doing her talk, I at least feigned interest. She's searching Facebook.
No, I'm sharing. I'm sharing this.
All right, so
because we're losing people quickly. We're losing blood.
So like this guy sort of looked at it through dreams and ESP, extrasensory perception. Oh God. And once again, it's the sensory deprivation. And he was thinking that by taking away the senses, you could activate your psi, it's called, so you can tap into those, what did we call them? The clairs. Remember we
chocolate eclair.
We talked about the clairs. So you go into an enhanced and psi mediated state, so the meditative state. God, words are just not happening tonight. Okay, so he did this experiment, and it was actually where the person in the Ganzfeld experiment was called the receiver, and then there was other people that were called the senders. And this is not what I thought the Ganzfeld was all about. I was so surprised when I found out what the origins were. So it was actually a form of remote viewing. Did you know that, Renata?
No.
Wow.
I thought you just sat in the dark and wanted the ghosts to poke you.
Yeah, well, no, that's not how it is actually meant to be run. So the way the Ganzfeld is set up is that the receiver goes into a space by themselves. They are they get ping pong balls, cut them in half, right? So the ping pong balls go over their eyes.
Oh, over their eyes.
And they're like placed on so that you can't see outside. Then they shine a red light onto their face. Then, whilst all that's happening, they've got headphones on and they're listening to pink noise.
Yes, which is not white noise or grey noise.
Or black noise or brown noise. I didn't realise there was so many freaking noises.
And maybe we should do that in N.
Noise. And I actually, because I had to listen to it, I thought it was really interesting, the different sounds. I've got to use my husband's phone. So this is pink noise. Oh, Christy's on. Right. Sorry, I'm not used to this phone. So that's the pink noise. I've got the phone upside down, I think. No. Roman, I hate your phone. And then I had a sample of white noise for you. Oh, here it is. So if I go over to white noise, which it was loaded, ready to go. Never mind. This is white noise.
Slightly deeper. So pink noise is a little bit more piercing.
Yes, I found the pink noise to be a more condensed sound, less airy and more attacking on the eardrums, whereas the white noise seemed to be a little bit more gentler for me, but it'd be interesting to see how other people felt about that. The spirit box is white noise. That's the white noise of the radio stations as it flips through. So yeah, they would put that on so that they've got just that shh noise happening. Their eyes have just got red coming at them and nothing else. And they were expected to be in that state for 30 minutes.
Nice.
So while they're in that state, they are meant to be calling out whatever that they're picking up on, and they would either have a camera on them, a CCTV type camera, and somebody would be writing down everything, or they'd have somebody notating what was happening. The sender would be in another room, and they would have a picture or an image that they would send mentally to the receiver to see if they could pick up on what it was. So interestingly, the stats were quite interesting on it. I I did have them written down somewhere. Oh, okay. Mostly what they do is they'd have one picture and then 3 decoys. So there'd be 4. So the chance, if you do statistics, the chance is 1 in 4 of getting it right. So 25% hit rate is meant to be. They found that it was around 28%. But then if they used repeat photos, they use the same photos over and over, then 38% and then 52%. I suppose it's because they've been front loaded with the idea of what the photos are, so they know what to guess for. So not a huge swing, but still it moved the probability of statistics. Now, of course, you know what scientists are like. They have to bicker and fight and say, your experiment sucks. That was shit. You didn't have your controls. You're going to lose it.
They do too.
And they do this in seance as well. When you sit in seance, you've got to have controls so that nobody can cheat. The problem with psi work is that it is the mind influencing matter or outcomes. So they were saying that if there was somebody in the room writing down the notes of what was happening, that they could influence the outcome of what the receiver was picking up. So as the receiver's calling things out, if the person writing notes going, oh, that sounds like an elephant, I bet they've got a trunk, they're going to say trunk or leathery hide or grey or something. And then if they've got psi ability, they influence the person who's sitting there. Same with the people who are sitting out in another room. Apparently that can also be a problem. So honest to God, the controls of everything. Anyway, so that was called what, sensory leakage, right? When the other people were leaking their ideas and thoughts out to what was happening.
There's pads for that.
Okay. Got wings. All right, so I thought this was interesting as well, is that they're talking about the traits and characteristics of subjects that are thought to increase the chance of the probability of getting these Ganzfeld positive words. Getting the hits, getting positive hits. So they said that to increase the chance of the psi working, you had to believe in psi, for starters. You have to believe.
Yep.
They had to have had experiences before in psi, which means that they know psi works because they've had experiences with it. Mm-hmm. They have to practice a mental discipline such as meditation. A bit of meditation. They had to be creative minded. In other words, they are able to think of stuff and can be, well, you know what it's like when you've got to improvise and you've just got to say things. And so if you're one of these people that can't visualize or can't picture things,
you have to have an imagination.
Imagination, that's the word I'm looking for. I haven't been drinking, I swear. Artistic ability. So that would probably be for details, to be able to, instead of just going, it's a grey elephant, it's got wrinkles, it's got small ears, it's got big ears, it's got 3 toes, so that you're sort of looking for details. And if they're emotionally close to the sender, so they've already got a link, then that makes it more effective as well. Now, where was it?
So that would actually make a really interesting experiment if you could do that, where you actually did some Ganzfeld with couples who know themselves really well, and then people who are total strangers, to see what the results would be. That's an interesting experiment as well.
We might do that at Maitland Jail in the 4 hour.
We might.
I'm going to set up my CCTV. So what we've been using it for with the ghost hunting people, and I actually have had a very interesting experience with the Ganzfeld. It's sort of like become a bit of a challenge, and the people get put into these situations. I've got the hiccups now with the headphones and red light and all that shit going on. Technical word that. And it's like, how long can can you last? That's the challenge. How long can you sit there listening to that shh noise and then let your imagination run riot and just say shit?
Andrew just mentioned, and Andrew is one of our wonderful volunteers, when he was testing the Ganzfeld experiment at Maitland Jail, he had an experience where an entity, energy, whatever you like to call it, a ghost, tried to lift his blindfold up.
Oh, that was recent too,
yes,
wasn't it,
yes,
Andrew?
that was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, because that was at Maitland Jail and he was up in the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Hi,
right.
Danielle.
Yeah. So we thought we might do some work on that and see what happens. Now, they say that short sessions are better because that long sessions can actually result in anxiety, hallucinations, strange and bizarre thoughts, and depression. So use it wisely. The same goes for the spirit box. Honestly, using the spirit box, you've got to be very careful because you can become obsessed with it. And that noise does get to you after a while. And I know that I've listened to just white noise and honest to God, you start to hear words come through. But is that part of the experience? Is because you've shut off all these other senses that you are now able to pick up on more than what you could before.
Mm. Yep. I find that because you do not have a lot of external influence, you really go into your subconscious mind, and it allows you to listen more clearly to the thoughts and to the images that are coming through. And if you are strong enough to be able to talk about them or say them to whoever else is listening, it's quite an interesting thing.
And I noticed that I read an article in the Skeptics magazine as well, and they're just basically saying that it's just all imagination. It's not real, and you know they debunked it. But I was saying the experience I had with the Ganzfeld, we had Pete from Appy. Mm-hmm. She was doing it in C Wing in Maitland Jail. And there was a recorder there that was going, and they caught a very clear EVP of them going, Pete. It was really, really strong.
Interesting.
And that's while she was in there by herself, and we were out in the other area with the screen watching it in another room, and this voice sounded like it was right next to her.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting experiment. I don't think we are using Ganzfeld the way that it was originally intended. Is that wrong? No, probably not. We're just trying to give people a sensory deprivation experiment. We are calling it Ganzfeld because there are certain parts of the original Ganzfeld experiment that is being used in the one that is now being recreated by ghost hunters.
And what I used, instead of the ping pong balls cut in half, I actually used swimming goggles and I lined them with baking paper. So that gave the effect of that opaque
red light, yeah.
Yeah, so that you could see the red light coming through should you choose to open your eyes. And then you've got your the headphones on with the white noise. And Jodie loved Dubbo. Yes, Dubbo, that's right. We've got Dubbo coming up as well. Sorry, I'm forgetting everything. Anyway, that's my little bit on the Ganzfeld. I told you I didn't have a lot on the Ganzfeld.
Yeah, but we've filled up almost an hour.
We have. What do you know?
So, look, thank you everyone for joining us this evening for the ABC of Paranormal Strangeness and the letter G and Golems and Ganzfeld. We will certainly be doing the Ganzfeld experiment in some form this month at Maitland Jail for our 4-hour experience, because we are always looking for different experiments to try with the people that come along. We had a great night last Friday night.
Yes, we haven't told them about the boys. Oh, that was fantastic.
We had a group of young gentlemen who were there as a birthday party for a young lad, and let me tell you, they were pooping their pants when they arrived.
Because the tour, is it 16 and up?
Yes.
So I think they sort of put their foot in it when I said, when we saw this group of boys, there's 10 strapping young lads there, and I said, oh, you guys all here for a birthday party? Because they're all like tough and this is going to be fun. And I said, oh, who's the birthday boy? They said, oh, him. I said, oh, how old are you? And he went, 15. And you could see them go, oops.
Yeah.
That's too late. They're all there. They've taken up half the tour. So we decided to split them just in case they were a bit rowdy. And
yeah, we kept all the boys together, which was a really good idea because they felt quite comfortable that
yeah,
way.
and they actually started to embrace their abilities and actually talk about what they were feeling and sensing. And then one of the boys actually heard his name called out in the spirit box, and we said, well, what do you want to do to blah blah? And they went, kill him. And I went, oh jeez, you're lucky. He was just about shitting himself, the poor bastard. But, you know, if you want to sneak into an adult tour, that's what happens.
And then we took them into, we had one particular group, the young boys, we took them into the shower block for part of the night.
Oh, that's right. The shower block was really active that night.
Yeah, we had the laser grid set up, and what we were doing is we were sending a group of young boys into the shower cubicles and having them touch the wall. So they were facing the wall, touch the wall, spread their legs. So they were as vulnerable as they possibly could be. And we were asking for the spirits to interact. And so, of course, there was this big bang, first of all, on the wall. And there was this big noise, bang, coming from nowhere. And then the laser grid that we had set up just turned off completely. It just went pitch black. And everyone just went, oh my God! So...
Birthday party to remember.
And we've gone, we're not near it. We didn't do that. No. Oh, it must have been the ghosts. And so, yes, they kind of just freaked out completely. But, oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah, they were a good bunch. I actually, at the end of it, I said to them all, because we gather everyone in a big circle at the end, and I said, guys, you were awesome. Not only were you really well behaved, but you embraced everything and gave it a go. And I said to the dad who had brought them, you should be proud of them. They're an awesome bunch of kids. And he's sort of like, yeah, I know. I think he was a little bit shit scared himself that I got to run amok.
Yeah, so they were good. They were good. We wouldn't recommend people underage coming. No. We do not recommend people underage coming, so not quite sure how they sneaked through. But anyway.
Oh, happy birthday, Becky. By the way, I can see everyone wishing you a happy birthday.
Yes.
So I at the end I said, oh, look, there was some adult content there. I hope you were okay with that. We wanted to treat you like adults, even though you're underage. And they were very appreciative of being treated as though they had something to say. Yeah. And we made sure that we were listening to them and allowed them to sort of talk about it. I'm hoping that they did a lot of talking today at school when they went back to school. There would have been a lot of talking. Especially when they had to do the rotations, and one of the rooms was Satan's cell with a Ouija board and candles in it. They got there,
not going in there.
Not going in there.
Not going in there. No, there's a Ouija board, not going in there.
You don't have to touch it. You just have to look at it. It's okay.
So, yeah, that was fun. But anyway, we will kick on. Hi, Tracy. And
hi, Tracy.
Just say see you on Thursday night. So Thursday night is our Tarot Thursday, where we do free tarot readings for half an hour from 8:30 till about 9 o'clock. So join us then.
And then 9 o'clock we jump over to our Parastalkers this week. Our Patreon Parastalkers, to give them some extra time.
And if you would like to join our Patreon group, where you get a little bit more than everybody else does, then there is a link at the top of the Frightfully Good page. It's the first...
it's pinned.
Yeah, the first pinned... thingy.
And don't feel you have to support us financially. If you can support us by sharing our pages, by buying our equipment, by getting readings with Renata, whatever you can do, we are very grateful for your support. So thank you, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on the dark side.
Bye.
Bye.